The day after the 2020 election, the Lord shared revelation with me about the Red Sea moment. I'm not just coming out and trying to take ownership for something that I didn't say. Here it is right here, the date and where it was posted. There has been mountains of revelation piled on to that original revelation for the last 3 years. And that's biblical because it says in the word that we know in part and we prophesy in part. And then when it fully comes to complete, it disappears and we move on to the next piece of revelation. What was known and prophesied in 2020 has not came to completion yet, but it's getting very close. Now, there's a much bigger story to talk about here related to the old guard falling and the new guard rising, Saul falling, David rising. It basically means that people that are in high realms of authority are being taken down, and then there's going to be new people that go into those realms of authority, which is also biblical because it says that he raises up and he takes down. For this specific video, I'm just going to talk about the election and Donald Trump and everything related to the revelation that's been given. I think like most people, we were like heartbroken and we were very distraught over what happened in 2020. And it was like, how could this happen? A lot of people were looking for quick solutions, myself included, hoping that there'd be a quick resolution because I was so sure about what was supposed to happen that didn't. But now, as time has went on, just like we know in part and prophesy in part, you see, back then I didn't know what I know now. And now, since the Lord reveals more revelation, like what happened then starts to make more sense now. You see, as a nation, we were like under a spell, man. We're in the matrix. Like we just don't fully know what's going on. We don't have an understanding of how our government and how our nation was originally set up. And we were starting to like fade away into just some crazy on their way to Sodom and Gomorrah setting. And what needed to happen is a wake-up check, a reality check for people to get shaken out of what the enemy was doing in the darkness and getting us to come into the light. For the last 3 years, that has started to happen. Now, there's a lot of people that are still asleep, but there has been many, many people that have woken up to understanding what's going on, and they're starting to get shaken of like, okay, man, I'm in darkness. Whoa, what's going on here? Like, I've got to persevere. I've got to push through. I'm being called to the light. So the Lord let me know that when the Israelites were going through the Red Sea and the Pharaoh and the Egyptians were going in after them, number one, that was a trap set for the Egyptians. They were supposed to go in after the Israelites so that God could get the Israelites to the other side, and then he could have the Red Sea drop on the Egyptians. If the Egyptians never went into the Red Sea, it could have never dropped onto them. So when they went into the Red Sea, on both sides of the Red Sea, there was two walls, right? Which represents them being fully exposed. So there they are in the middle of the Red Sea. They can't go back and they can't go forward. They're just there, fully exposed on like all ends of this whole entire thing, looking up, knowing that if that Red Sea drops, it's over for us. We have no way to get out of this. The interesting part of this is that the Israelites, who would be the righteous in this season, God's people in this season, were not able to go back either. And they couldn't go to the right or to the left. In fact, they were going to try to go a shorter route, but God directed them down to the Red Sea. If you look in the scriptures, they would have had a shorter route, but God knew they would have faced war and they would have turned back. Just like if Mr. T was put in right away, we would have probably had a civil war of some sort and people would have turned back and they wouldn't have wanted Trump anymore because it would have just been chaos everywhere. But instead, we're forced to go through the Red Sea route, which means we don't have a choice. We're going through this. We're going to do it. So we're going to get to the other side of it at the right time. And then when justice comes, it will drop on the enemy. Now, what that looks like is not what everybody wants it to be, because the Israelites are almost getting across, but they're still having to deal with Pharaoh and the Egyptians coming after them. And it feels like any moment we're going to be caught. It feels like any moment it's going to be over for us. And then they get across and it drops on the Egyptians. You see, what's important to know is that any moment represents so many different biblical stories. It represents Daniel being in the lion's den, almost getting destroyed, but then he doesn't, and the ones that put him in there get thrown in there. It represents Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego getting thrown into the fire, and they don't get burnt up, but the people that put them in there get burnt up, and they come out promoted on the other side. It represents Haman setting up a noose for Mordecai, where Mordecai was going to go get hung from this noose, but then things took a turn, and then Haman ended up getting hung from his own noose. You see, this season is about almost losing and then winning. So when you start to see all these crazy things out there that are going on and it looks like we're going to lose, it's supposed to look like that. There's supposed to be a last-second victory here. It's just the way the season was designed to shake us to the completeness of our core so that we can rise in the Lord, so that we can shake off what's in the past and this darkness that's trying to hold us in this past, in this slavery type of mindset. It's supposed to shake every part of our being so that we fully get on the narrow path and submit to the Lord 100%, and that there's not any part of us that's still trying to hold on to the world. And that is the definition of the church unifying and coming together as the remnant. And that is what the Lord is doing right now. He is bringing the church in tighter and closer. And a lot of people are leaving, and it's very sad to see, because they don't want to walk the narrow path, and they don't want to really press in and do what you need to do to fully give your life completely over to the Lord, to do his will on earth as it is in heaven. It's sad to see, but those that are a part of it are going to get to experience some really cool miracles, and the Lord is going to use them in such a mighty way in this season. There is going to be an intensity and a more high definition, amplified glory in the Lord going through us and around us as the remnant in the body of Christ gets closer. So it's exciting for this. And if you see the story and you relate it to the parallels of the election, you know that eventually we'll see the justice. So keep pressing into the Lord. That's what's most important in this season. God bless.